Well, I gotta tell you, as I've told you many times before, this is an awesome spot. The craziest thing about the place that I'm in right now is not exactly specifically how great the spot is that I've chosen, but just that there are so many good spots to choose. And it's like, damn, do I want to be close to something more beautiful or more remote? Like, I'm in this huge park. Kansas does its parks right. Like, there have been a couple of parks I've gone through, and I'm just like, dang, this thing is huge, you know? And this one is right next to a golf course that I just kind of got lost on for, a half mile. At the end of the day, always fun, But I have found this little bench area that I'm pretty stoked on. I just applied a very liberal amount of lavender onto myself, although it does appear that the bugs are not so concerned with that. I've got one on me, but I can't get to it. Get off me. Anyway, yeah, this is great. Like, this is like worth mentioning the name of the park. In fact, I am in Russell, Kansas, but where exactly am I? What is the name of this park? The name of this park is the Russell County Veterans Memorial Park. And it is quite massive. It might be, let's see, maybe like a half mile by a half mile or so. It's huge. Has a baseball field, has an entire golf course, has several other ambiguous fields, several picnic shelter areas, which is where I'm currently at. One of them anyway. There were many, and as I made my way around the actual golf course, I was like looking, and then I found the park, and I was like, oh, I want to go there. And in fact, if I can get this clip done soon enough, I might roll over to the middle of the park and see if there's any water. I'm sure there's got to be. A park this size, you got to keep them hydrated, but definitely sleeping here tonight, definitely sleeping on the floor. Hopefully the bugs don't get too bad, but in any case, it's all good. Oh, man, what a day. How many miles for the day? How many? Let's see. I'm curious. Let's see if I'm still connected. 78.7 miles for the day. A good day. Let's make sure that's all sunk, as it were. Is today the 14th? I guess I should do a timestamp. Yes, it is Sunday, September 14th, 2025, and I'm here in Russell, Kansas, and yeah, it's awesome. I think I'm going to sleep really, really well here. I'm sure I'll get up super early as well, especially considering that it seems like there's a decent likelihood of people walking by early in the morning. And hopefully I didn't offend anyone too much by being on the grass earlier. I wasn't actually on the grass of the golf course, but I was certainly on the paved part that is supposed to be used, probably more strictly, exclusively by the golf carts, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, quite a day. I'm trying to think if anything remotely recently sticks out as something that needs to be talked about first, but I don't really think so. I had like a pretty good little feast at my last break. Usually when I get to a place like this at the end of the day, the first thing I do is eat, because I'm just like, it was like the final push, and it could have been anywhere between like 20 and 30 miles or so. But I ate very recently, and so I'm actually just going straight into recorder mode, my dude, which is great. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and just, I guess I could give a little bit more context about last night. So that guy who was mowing the grass, like, eventually he started passing me over and over again, like, he was mowing right in front of me. And again, I couldn't help but just be like, dude, why are you mowing at, like 8 o'clock at night? Like, it's crazy. Like, I really do think that thought, where I was just like, you put this off all day, I know it. Like, that was exactly what must have happened, because it was just like the worst time of the day to mow. Just, I can't even imagine, like, it doesn't really matter. But I took that as a cue to GTFO, and so I went over, as I mentioned in the clip last night, and set up pretty quickly in what appeared to be basically just like I don't know what you call it, like a goal, one of the goals of a, what is that thing called? Disc golf, like the thing that you throw the disc into. I don't know what these things are called. But in any case, I slept at one, and it was pretty good. The bugs were a little bit bad initially, but there was like a really nice breeze all night. In fact, I talked with ChatGPT at a certain point because I was like, what is it that makes the difference between basically getting a bunch of dew in the morning versus like, being dry? And ChatGPT was like, a steady breeze can make a really big difference. And I certainly had one last night, and I woke up completely dry. And all my stuff was relatively dry too, which was cool. Took me a little while to fall asleep. It sounded like some people were having some sort of a fight. I have no idea what it was about. And it could have just been some kind of weird restaurant noise that I was hearing. I don't know if it was actually residential, but as the breeze would blow, it would kind of bring with it like screams of people below. And I just remember at one point there was like a woman's voice that was going, Tucker, no, Tucker. It could have been talking about a dog, I have no idea, but it sounded dramatic. And I was just like, man, it's so nice that I'm just like in this like disc golf area and no one has any idea where I am and no one's yelling at me for anything. Tucker or not, but it does feel a little bit more stagnant here air-wise, so we'll see. It was a pretty steady crosswind all day. And again, if I had my druthers, I suppose I would prefer to have wind coming at me from the south as opposed to wind coming at me from the west to the east. A crosswind is way better than a headwind. And there were several times today where I actually went north and northwest, and I just had this amazing push from behind. That kind of happened all the way here tonight. Like the last 8 or 9 miles or something like that. At a certain point, I made a right-hand turn, having gone west, pretty much due west all day on this road, Kansas 140. And I got onto another road called Old US 70, which is, I guess, parallel to, the current Interstate 70, which, again, I am broadly following, at least in terms of, like, parallel travel, so that I can go basically straight through Denver. My current plan basically is to, because I actually confirmed with the Trek today that I will be on the podcast. I got an invitation, and it's as official as can be. 10x all the way, EOD, circle back, etc. And so the interview will be on the 29th, I believe. And I'm thinking I'm going to probably get into Denver a week from today at the current rate, all things remaining equal. And I think that I'm just going to find a hostel there and just stay there for, I don't know. Well, I'll have to see how far it is from Denver to Golden. I don't know. I don't have any bearing on that area. Let's see while I do this. So we want to know, how far is Golden, Colorado from Denver, Colorado? Seems like Denver is going to be the best bet for hostels. Oh, 17 miles. Okay, lol. Okay. That's easy. I was wondering what I was going to do, like if I stayed at a hostel in Denver and then I went to do the show. I wasn't entirely sure if I would need to like leave the hostel the day before or whatever, but 17 miles, that's like, I mean, if I end up doing 34 miles that day and that's my day, then that's a pretty easy day. So yeah, in general, planning on going to Denver and basically kind of not taking any days off per se, but just not going any farther west. So basically, my thought today was that I would go into Denver and then, get all my stuff settled in and stuff like that, and then basically go and try to bike to as many bike shops as possible and ask them about like what their group ride situations were, and then basically just try to do as many group rides every day as possible, or at least like one a day or something like that, interspersed with like going to cafes. And I don't know, there was a moment the other day, it was the first time since I left, which again was August 25th, 21 days ago or whatever it was. It was the first time I had an inclination to play guitar. I was like, I haven't played guitar like in a really long time. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, it took, nearly 21 days for me, or 20 or whatever, give or take. It took several days for me, many handfuls of several days, to actually miss guitar. And I was like, that would never happen with biking. Like, it would happen on the day. Like, if I woke up one day and I knew that I wasn't going to be biking, that would be present start to finish, you know? I'd be like, oh, damn. But usually, to be fair, any day that I have taken off biking has usually led to the day after being all the more better because of dopamine, etc. But, yeah. So those are some tentative plans. And I did also get to use like my new social media strategy today, which I have to say is much more enjoyable and can be done sort of like on the moment, on the fly, you know, as it were. And that was great. I really enjoyed that. You know, just being able to take pictures, post pictures as they kind of happen rather than waiting. You know, again, it's just like this, the gap between experience and sharing that experience was like too wide. Like, it was just like, I just didn't, it doesn't matter. I don't need to talk about it again. I've already embarrassed myself enough. So this morning I woke up at like 6:40 or so, and it was to the sunrise. I was very cozy in this little pit. Like, I didn't want to get up for, I guess I probably snoozed for 10 minutes. And then as soon as the sun really started to break over the horizon, I was like, all right, well, I got to get up. Plus, McDonald's is waiting, and I don't want to keep her waiting. So I was able to go to McDonald's, and I have to say it wasn't my favorite McDonald's. Some of them are better than others for reasons that are kind of hard to quantify, but, you know, I do have a few criteria for a good McDonald's, which is primarily like, I want to be able to see my bike from wherever I'm sitting, and I also want to have access to electricity. That's actually about it. The rest of it is pretty much taken care of. Oh, I do want the fountain drink machine to have water. Sometimes there are McDonald's that don't actually have a water option on their fountain drink machine, and I'm just like, really though? Like, you know, what happens if someone wants water? You know, or what if you need some water? What if you need to take a pill or something like that? You just do it with Coke, I guess so, or Fanta, or I don't even know. I'm not going to try to explore the minds of others. One of the funniest things I can remember in this kind of vein was when I was working after the Appalachian Trail in 2022. I worked as a dishwasher while I lived with my parents. It was better than it sounds. I was kind of purposefully reacclimating to like non-trail life, and I wanted to have something to do, so I worked at this restaurant part-time just so I, you know, basically just stay busy, you know. And just remember one day that there was like an inhaler right next to a vape, and I was like, this person definitely has their priorities straight. Like, you know, if you use an inhaler and you vape, I think that there's something to look at there. I'm not going to say what it is, but I think there's something there. So anyway, this McDonald's was not my favorite, so I kind of pressed on early. I had seen that there was a coffee shop, like a proper cafe, that was about, dang, how far was it? It was like 37 miles or something. It was just out of reach for me to get there in time. And so, like, I basically was like, well, I'm going to try to go for it, because if I can get there, that would definitely be righteous. And so I left, I think it was 4 miles to the McDonald's, and then I left for a 37-mile jaunt to, what was the name of that town? Oh, man. Ellsworth. And so I got into Ellsworth, and like right on the, I guess it would be the eastern side of Ellsworth, it was like 12:52, and I was like, again, it's not going to be worth it to try to get there in the next 8 minutes. It was like a mile away. Like, I definitely technically probably could have gotten there like right at 1:50 or 12:59, but I really didn't want to go in and again have to ask them to, like, you know, dirty up their espresso machine. If they were still even open, if they had any sense about them, they'd probably close a little earlier than 1:59, or 12:59. Anyway, there was a Casey's that saved me, and it was just as well. It was an awesome break. I think I mostly just relaxed, talked to my parents briefly, talked to my boy Ben, shout out to Ben, did some basic needfuls, you know, filled up water, and charged my phone and had an awesome little seat area where I was able to do all my stuff. Several people talked to me. It was a nice situation. It was very chill, you know. Oh, I should say too, on the way to Ellsworth, this was another part of the equation for the mission. I was like, you know, I'd been looking at the weather and it was supposed to rain today. And I was like, well, it's like a 35% chance of rain. Like, I don't know what that means, but that sounds to me like something that is very doable. And so I did get rained on quite a bit today, but it was not like there's a certain type of rain that I consider to be like, the situation becomes sort of a lost cause. Like when everything is saturated to the point that it's become like a darker shade of that color through and through everywhere that you look, like that's the kind of rain that's like, okay, this is like, now it's raining for sure. But this rain was more spotty, and it was more like, you know, just like you could see all the individual drops. It never got to a saturation point that was like unrecoverable. Like I always just think, well, especially if it's early in the day like that, and boy, did today end up being a perfect example of what I'm about to say. But you know, if it just doesn't rain any harder than it is, even if it does it several times, which it did, like all of my stuff will dry throughout the course of the day as I continue to move. And dude, the sun came out in rare fashion today. I was like, oh, it was like a fever dream, a fugue state, the memory of like this very cool and comfortable period of several hours where the sun was behind like a very thick blanket of clouds. I didn't have my shirt on. It was like everything felt good. and then it rained several times, and then the sun came back out. But hey, sometimes it do be like that though. Anyway, yeah, so pushing on from Casey's and Ellsworth, there were a couple of other towns that I wanted to go to, but they didn't really have any offerings. Today is Sunday, so like a lot of places in these small towns are either closed or they have extremely abbreviated hours, as I'm kind of hinting towards. So I went through some other towns, I forget their names, but it was all basically on 140, I believe, Kansas 140. If you look at my Strava, it's like pretty much just a straight line across Kansas for today, as it pretty much was yesterday as well. It's just kind of funny, just, you know, everything is kind of laid out, all of the roads in like 1 mile squares. And so every time you come to an intersection, you can pretty much, you know, assume that you've gone another mile. And pretty much every intersection off of the main road is like a gravel road. And then it just goes on like to some farmhouse or some farm depot or something like that, you know. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. But yeah, so there was one final place that I got to today before my final push. And it was basically just like a really big gas station that was kind of shaped like a barn. And it seems like they probably have really good food, I bet, in the morning and probably for lunch. But there was like nothing going on. Like it was like they had a full kitchen and kind of like a little cafeteria kind of area where people could like sit and eat. That was a little bit more distinguished from the other kinds of areas. You know, again, in small towns, gas stations tend to be like basically the biggest deal that there is for socializing and, you know, just generally, you know, meeting with your fellow man. And I feel like this would have been a good one, especially like in the morning time. Like I bet like walking in there at like 7 or 9 a.m. is like, I bet that's where it's happening. I bet that's where it's going on. Solving the world's problems, you know, and yeah, just doing the Lord's work. So anyway, I had a pretty good snack there. I think I had 2 apples, I did go to a grocery store today. I forgot about that. When I was in Ellsworth, it was like right across the street from the Casey's. Bought some more apples and some crunchy Jif peanut butter, which is really, really not as good, in my opinion, as the Smucker's natural peanut butter. Like, I don't know. Again, there's no accounting for taste, but when it comes to peanut butter, I would prefer it to lean towards the salty side and not the sweet side. And I feel like Jif, I mean, I know that sugar is like the second or third ingredient, and then comes the oils and all that junk, you know. And it's fine. It's in a pinch, you know, it will do. But it really doesn't taste the way I want peanut butter to taste. It doesn't have the right texture. I like it to be grainy. I like it to taste like it was just ground, and the oil is really good too. I mean, I basically just drink the stuff when I first open the can. I mean, I don't really do that, but those first few spoonfuls are definitely oil laden. But yeah, I pushed from that final break place that would have been an awesome breakfast place to here, and I had, like I said, it was sort of a tailwind for the last half of it, and I'm very, very, very pleased with what I have found. This spot is special because primarily to me anyway, it's like there's no way for a car to actually get in position to see me as far as I can tell. And I do need to do a little stroll here to figure out where the water is. I'm sure they have water fountains. There's no way. I mean, it's pretty built up. But yeah, how many times can I say it was a good day? I don't think I have anything on my list. My list has taken a new form now that I am not feeling like I'm trying to document everything in the same kind of way. But yeah, let's see. The only thing I have is a standing note to try to find postcards, which have really proven to be quite difficult. I guess it turns out, like, if you're not going through places that typically people go through to sightsee, you're probably not going to find anything to commemorate their existence, But yeah. So, dude, I mean, what else? I mean, I feel pretty much ready for bed, honestly. Like, I'm ready to have the sun set at 7:44 now, so I don't know. I think the sun is probably technically set. Let's actually take a look, shall we? And there's actually a chance of rain for tonight, so double kudos to me. That means that I will, 1, be warm and dry, because I'm under this awning, and 2, that's more likely for chances of people to not come and investigate anything that's going on over here, just because it's like, who wants to go out into the rain? Yeah, the sun's set at 7:45, so it's setting right now as we speak. So I guess I'll leave it there for now. I think tomorrow, I don't have any specific plans. It'll probably be another 60, 70, 80 mile day west of here, parallel to 70, which again is like keeping me close to towns, which I like. And I hope that there's a McDonald's in town. Let's see if there is. It would be so cool to be sponsored by them. I really think that like Zen and McDonald's should both sponsor athletes. I don't see why not. I'm using both of their products a lot, and I would contribute some of my success to their existence. Let's see if McDonald's is around here, shall we? Russell's a pretty big town. Search this area, please. Oh, no McDonald's, but there is a place called Espresso, etc., which I kind of like the idea of. Let's see if there's any other cafes or breakfast spots around this area. Let's see. Ooh, quite a few. Well, these aren't like real coffee places. What is Espresso, etc.? Opens at 9 a.m. What are these? This is not. Oh, that's the wrong place. I was about to say, this is like, why are they selling clothes? 7:30 a.m. This is exactly where I'm going to go for breakfast. This looks awesome. It looks like they have breakfast stuff, like sandwiches, I hope. Man, I probably shouldn't be taking you through this. This probably is not the most interesting thing in the world, but ooh, they do have breakfast sandwiches. Well, there's nothing more interesting than that. Alright, well, I won't drag you through any more of my logistics. I'm going to go do a little bit of exploration in the park, get away from these bugs for a minute, and then batten down the hatches for what could be a little wet and, I don't know, gross here coming through. In the next few hours, I'll have to figure out which way the wind's blowing so I can try to hunker down safely. Alright, love you, bye.